Hi, Tony.
Hi, Haley. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. So, tell me about what you do.
What do I do? That's a good question. I'm not sure. I don't written
Where to
down
start?
somewhere. Well, basically, I'm kind of, for want of a better word, a music guy. I spent all my life working in the music industry. So from kind of when I left college, I had a lousy job for a while, but I got out of that and I started selling records. Do you want a history lesson as well with it?
Yeah, I want to know what
Okay,
made
yeah,
you
because
even
I
start.
started in the 70s in 1974 selling records out the back of a van for £25 a week. It was kind of the best job ever because
And 25 pounds is
about $40.
what okay.
Yeah, probably a bit less with the
40
exchange
a week?
rate. Yeah,
At what age?
yeah, at 20.
That's not much, right?
It was
I
fine.
don't think that would.
It was fine. Believe you me, the things you could get for that money. Oh,
And when was that?
that was 1974, and I kind of I progressed from there. I did that for kind of 4 years. I worked for another company selling American imports, strangely enough, but it was kind of, there was a lot of jazz and type of music that I didn't really know much about. And then in 1978, I had the opportunity to go to a label called Island, which oddly enough was my favourite record label. I'd been buying all their records in the 60s, and then all of a sudden I got offered a job there. So not only would I get all the records for free, I would get paid.
You have really amazing titles as far as publisher for David Bowie, working for you too. What was your typical, you wake up in the morning, you go to work, what did that consist of?
Well, the great thing about it was every day was different because you're working with artists, so you're working with creatives. So, like managing creativity and innovative management are two of the buzzwords in business school today. Whereas when I was doing it, you kind of saw limit. You didn't know anything about it. It probably wasn't in the dictionary, but I managed creativity every day of my life because I always say to work with artists, you have to kind of think like them. You almost have to get inside their head. You know, there's a great quote from a manager of called Doc McGee, who's been around for a long time. He manages Bon Jovi, he managed Kiss, and he managed Motley Crue. You can imagine trying to manage a band like
Right.
Motley Crue, you know.
A lot of pressure.
Exactly. But the thing is, he came out with a great analogy of it all, a quote, which is 90% of rock stars have less than a high school education. They wave their hand in one direction, and 50,000 people wave their hand in the same direction, and they feel power. And that's when you have to kind of, you know, be in a position to be able to hone it in and not, because these people go out and they become the kind of, they're totally adored for like 2 hours, you know.
I can see how
Every
that
girl
would
wants to be
change
with them, every
someone.
guy wants to
Right.
be them, you know, and it's kind of like,
You almost don't feel like you're human. I think that's what people
but when
do.
they come off stage, there's that emptiness. They go back to a hotel room, and that's why invariably they go back to a hotel room with a girl or some drugs, or you know, it's kind of a deviation away from a diversion away from the real world because they don't live in the real world.
I would think as an artist, it's obviously exciting, like you said, to have fans of people, huge crowds admire you, but that also does take away the personal aspect because they don't really know you. They've never really had a conversation, so it's nice to be treated like a normal person and be seen for who they are, not just for the status that everyone.
And what about when you fall off your pedestal? You know,
Exactly.
what about when
You see
you're
who
no
your
longer
real fans
popular
are,
and
right.
you think all of a sudden, oh, all these people who were around me before aren't around me
Suddenly
now.
they're not.
Everyone wants to work with you. Everyone wants to play with you. It's kind of like, you know, it's a very surreal world, and I think that my experience with working with a lot of, you know, famous artists is the most famous artists are the easiest to work with because they know it's not all about them. They know it's about a team of people around them, so they don't take it that it's just me, because then all of a sudden you push people away and you realise that your accountant don't want to work
And you
with
can
your manager dumps you.
Easily replaced these days, so I think that
easily, very
diva
easily.
attitude won't get you as far.
And people like try it on, and there are people that historically have gotten away with it, but you know, it's kind of like, you know, there's sad endings like the Whitney Houstons, you know, it's kind of like she ends up like, you know, dying in a hotel room the night before the Grammys. I look at that and I remember writing a blog about it. I think, how could anybody let somebody like Whitney Houston, in the state of mind that she was in at the time, go to a hotel room the night before the Grammys on her own? Who would do that? Why do you have somebody sitting outside the door and just, if they don't hear anything in a few minutes, knock on the door and save her? I mean, we've come a long way since Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
So, you know, I kind of looked deeper into it because, I mean, for me it was about building relationships. It just happened to be building relationships with famous people. But the thing is, if I build relationships with artists, and I grow up learning my trade when they were learning theirs. There's kind of a common connection, like you do with a school kid or with like a kid through adolescence. You know, you experience the same things in life. And I think the thing is with artists, a lot of them they can be accused of being needy and insecure and stuff and things like that because of the attention.
And with social media, you're fighting a lot of things that aren't even true these days.
And a lot of things
article
that
about yourself.
and a lot of things can just, you know, you can become famous by being sensational, and that's kind of a dangerous thing. And I think the thing is that the thing that I always found, and this is kind of, we're going back 20, 30 years, you know, is kind of like, you know, you build that bond and that kind of relationship, which are kind of things that you'd like to think that your parents taught you about trust and respect and integrity. You know, if people don't feel kind of threatened by you being around and think that you're going to be there to get something out of them, they're more receptive. And I always found that, you know, I was able to work with artists fairly easily because the more I did it and the more I gained from the experience of it, the better I was with it. Because you can see potential of some people coming up, and you can prepare yourself, which ultimately is in a position to help prepare themselves for that time when it might all go wrong.